Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much, those of you that have been waiting for a few minutes. We're just about to get started now. We just wanted to make sure that everything was ready to go and that everybody that was joining was going to join. I really apologize if you ever hear a bark in the background. Still working from home, and I have a puppy in the other room who is having a little bit of a moment. But hey, that just humanizes us all after all. Anyway, welcome to the State Water Board's California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program application webinar. My name is Kelsey Thompson-Briggs, and I'm an engagement coordinator in the State Water Board's Office of Public Participation. And today I'm joined by staff from the Division of Drinking Water and Division of Financial Assistance, who will present an overview of the Drinking Water Arrearage Program, timeline, and the application process. The intent of today's webinar is to make it as easy as possible for community water systems to complete and submit their applications for drinking water arrearages. Before we get started, I'll go through just a couple of logistics and housekeeping. First, this webinar and its chat are being recorded. We will share the video link with today's attendees, and you should have also received the presentation that we're using today via email. If you
Recording in progress.
And now we are officially recording. If you did not, you may email us at Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov to request a copy of the presentation, just in case you were a last minute registrant and didn't get it ahead of time. And we will also be posting the video on our website. In a moment, my colleague David will go over today's agenda. However, I wanted to briefly share with you how you can submit questions throughout the webinar. So if you're participating through the Zoom app, please enter your questions into the chat, which if you hover over your screen is in the bottom control bar, the little button that says chat and has the little chat logo. You can use that at any point, but we will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation, but we'll be keeping track of those questions as we go. If you're calling in and you don't have access to the chat in Zoom, you can also email us at any time to the following email: Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov. And I'll say that again one more time, a bit slower for folks that are on the phone. So the email to send in questions is Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov, and that's waterboards with an S. And I'll repeat that again when we get to the question and answer period. When you send in those questions, please use the subject line 1020 webinar question to make sure that that gets to the top of the inbox. There will be a Q&A period at the end of the presentation, and we'll do as best as we can to answer as many questions as possible. We do recognize that in some cases you may have questions that are super specific to a circumstance that's unique to your system. And in that case, we won't be able to answer during the webinar because we may need to ask you some follow-up questions. So just keep that in mind. So with all of that said, I will now turn the presentation over to my colleague, David. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey. In this webinar, we're going to provide an overview of the program, explain how to access the application, give you an overview of the application questions and required attachments, briefly discuss the abbreviated survey, and then respond to questions. The state legislature allocated $985 million of federal funding to the State Water Board for the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program. Community water systems that completed our survey on or before September 10th can now apply for assistance through the electronic annual report portal. The application opened on October 5th, and we began receiving and reviewing applications on that first day. Once the application has been reviewed and approved by the State Water Board, the state controller will issue a payment. Community water systems that missed the September 10th survey deadline are not left out. They can submit an abbreviated survey and then complete an application. So which water systems are eligible and which arrearages are eligible? As you've probably heard before, only community water systems are eligible to receive assistance through this program. Arrearages must be accrued from March 4th, 2020 through June 15th, 2021. And customer bills must be 60 days or more past due to be considered in arrears. Community water systems that transfer debt or have customer assistance programs are eligible for this program. Debt relief for wastewater systems may be available later if funding remains after we address drinking water arrearages. Here's a program timeline. The first two items, the program survey and the board resolution establishing program guidelines, were completed last month. The abbreviated survey and the application will be open until December 6th. Both will be reviewed as soon as they are submitted. We're not waiting until December 6th to begin processing. The sooner you submit, the sooner you will receive financial assistance. The State Water Board is required to begin dispersing funds no later than November 1st. So here are just a few important timeframes and deadlines applicable to community water systems participating in the program. Funding must be allocated as credits on customer bills within 60 days of receiving funding from the State Water Board. Water service cannot be shut off before December 31st, or potentially later if a payment plan is offered. And more information on this will be provided in a subsequent slide. Program guidelines include details regarding reporting requirements, and a schedule for reporting will be provided soon. By January of 2022, we're required to determine if funding is available for wastewater arrearages. Final guidelines for the program were adopted on September 21st, and they're available at the address shown on the screen now. Systems with customer assistance programs are eligible, but require coordination with the arrearage team. Debt transferred to county tax collectors or third parties is eligible, and we've gotten a lot of questions on this, but only for active accounts. The program guidelines include 3 compliance options for this scenario. We're allocating funding to cover 100% of eligible arrearages under this program. So more information on shutoffs. And this is a bit of a mouthful, but a community water system cannot discontinue water service due to non-payment of past due bills before either of the following dates, whichever date is later: December 31st, 2021, or for a customer that has been offered an opportunity to participate in the payment plan, the date the customer misses the enrollment deadline for or defaults on the payment plan. I just want to note that customers can report a water shutoff due to non-payment at the address shown. Again, as I said a moment ago, community water systems can access the program survey through the electronic annual report portal. When you log in, you'll see this dashboard. You can click on the blue numbers to go to the abbreviated survey or to the application. If you're having trouble, you can contact us via email at Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov, or you can call 916-322-6227. We'd be happy to help out. The application has 13 questions. In this and several subsequent slides, we're going to walk through the questions and provide a few tips. Question 1 pertains to the number of residential accounts in arrears, and question 2 requests the total amount of residential arrearages, excluding late fees. Similarly, questions 3 and 4 ask for the number and amount of commercial arrearages. In all of these questions, answers from the survey are shown for reference. Entries in the application can be greater than, less than, or equal to the survey entries, and that's okay. This screenshot, as an example, includes questions 1 and 2, and in each you can see the survey entries provided for reference, followed by application entries that have been provided by someone who's completing the application. In question 1, the 1,501 was pre-filled from the survey and appeared when the application was initially opened. The 1,245 had to be keyed in by a person completing the application. Again, answers from the survey are shown for reference only. Even if numbers are unchanged going from the survey to the application, questions 2 and 4 must be answered to get the maximum funding allotment to calculate later in the application. Otherwise, that won't work properly. In question 5, water systems can indicate if they have a customer assistance program or have transferred debt. Question 6 is the funding application request, and this needs to match the disbursement request form that is uploaded in question 10. Authorized representative or designee information is provided under question 8. The authorized representative delegation form is only required if designating another person to sign. A link to our signatory guidelines is also provided. Question 9 is for attaching the conditions of payment form. In addition, the form with the original signature must be mailed to the address shown in the application. And Zube will be providing additional information on this later in the webinar. Question 10 is similar, but pertains to the disbursement request form. The amount needs to match the funding application request, and the form must be signed by the authorized representative or designee. And again, the form with original signature must be mailed to the address shown in the application. In question 11, you provide the address to which the check will be sent. It's a vital piece of information. Question 12 pertains to tax ID forms, which only need to be uploaded if they've not been submitted previously. Finally, in question 13, water systems with 3,300 service connections or more must upload an arrearages spreadsheet. Templates are provided for single reporter and aggregate scenarios. And now I'll turn the webinar over to Nzube.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nzube Okamiri. I'm with the DFA. We just have a few help tips when submitting your package. And on the screen, we have to include the CA prefix before your PWS ID number. That way, when we send it over to our accounting and SCO, they can match those up. They need that to be in that format, CA, and then the PWS ID number. Second point is the authorized rep needs to sign all documents mailed to the fund in blue ink, because we do make copies and we need one original one in blue ink. Please make sure to mail in your package. And I know in one of the questions, it says to just mail in the disbursement request form, but we should have both the COP and the disbursement request form. Those are both original signatures needed. Next point is the legal entity name on the disbursement request form needs to match the payee data record form. Forms need to be error-free, so no crossouts, no whiteout scribbles, anything of that nature. Sorry, you guys can't hear me very well. Is that better?
Yes.
I need to move closer to my computer. I'm sorry. So no crossouts, whiteouts, scribbles, anything of that nature, because the DFA will ask to redo and resubmit. Please staple your package together so documents don't get lost and misfiled. These documents go through different hands before they reach us, so it's easy for something that isn't bound together somewhat semi-permanently to fall off or get misfiled. So yeah, stapling will help to address that issue. All wet signature docs, so the COP and the disbursement request form, will need to be on file with DFA before the payment can be released. And then the next slide, David. And for large water systems, you need to verify that the spreadsheet template that is uploaded, it must match the disbursement form and the application, the dollar amounts and number of connections. I see a question that I'm going to jump into quickly. COP stands for conditions of payments. It is one of the questions in the survey. I believe it's question 9. And the program can only issue one payment to an entity. So if the entity is submitting like different applications for multiple water systems and is not using the aggregate application method, the entity is going to have to submit a separate request form for the aggregate amount requested. So one check can be sent to that entity. And that's all I have for the DFA side.
Thanks, Nzube. So a note about help tips. Help tips are provided to clarify and explain questions within the application. To access the help tips, click on one of the many little blue question marks that you'll see. And help tips can also be accessed at the address shown at the bottom of the slide. If you have trouble with the application, technical assistance is definitely available. For questions regarding specific items in the application, you might say details, you can email the State Water Board Arrearages staff at Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov, or call us at the same number that I provided previously. That's 916-322-6227. However, for more in-depth help completing the application, please submit a technical assistance request form. The form is available at the address shown in this slide and should be emailed to dfa-ta-request@waterboards.ca.gov. When technical assistance forms are submitted, we will connect you with one of the following 3 technical assistance providers: the California Rural Water Association, the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, or self-help enterprises. Services available through these entities include assistance with electronic annual reports and/or the Arrearages Abbreviated Survey, development of payment plans, obviously, as I've been saying, help with the application, and complying with the upcoming reporting requirements for the Arrearages program. Some more available resources are listed here. Got the address for the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program website. We've developed a frequently asked questions document, and we have a link to that also. Was just recently updated. And some other resources are available through the California Department of Community Services and Development website, and that address is shown. When the application is complete, the submit button must be clicked, and this needs to be emphasized. The save and exit button should only be clicked if you're not finished and need to go back to the application later. But once the application is submitted, only State Water Board staff can edit. So that's important to keep in mind. Reminder about the application deadline that I stated previously. It's December 6th at 5 p.m. And that's a hard deadline we are not going to be able to extend. After an application is submitted, there's a 4-step process leading to payment. First is the Division of Drinking Water Eligibility Review. Second is the DFA Financial Review. Third is accounting. And then finally, the State Controller's Office. And as we've mentioned, that's the entity that actually issues the payment checks out to community water systems. Perhaps you've been wondering, mentioned it a few times. What is the abbreviated survey and how does it work? The abbreviated survey is open to water systems that reported no arrearages, declined to participate in the program, or missed the September 10th survey deadline. Like the application, the abbreviated survey is accessible through the electronic annual report portal. The abbreviated survey and the application both, as I stated before, must be submitted by December 6th. Certain question numbers in the abbreviated survey or question numbers from the original survey are skipped because we removed groups of questions related to revenue loss and arrearage amounts over $600. And with that, I'll conclude our presentation. We are going to take a 5-minute break. And after that break, we'll respond to questions that we've been receiving in the Zoom chats and also via email. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And just as a reminder for folks that might be joining on the phone, that email that you can send your questions to is Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov. And if you can include the subject line 1020 webinar question, we'll make sure that we spot that one as quickly as possible. I also noticed that there were a couple of questions about whether people can access the slides and the video. So just as a reminder, we will be posting the video recording on our website. And if you did not already receive a copy of the presentation, please send us an email and we will send you a copy over. So you can email us at Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov and we'll be happy to send you a copy of the presentation. So as David said, we're going to take a 5-minute break so that you all can stretch, grab a cup of coffee and submit any questions that you might not have already shared. And then we will regroup and answer all the questions that we can. Thank you. So we'll come back together at 10:28.
All right, everyone, it's 10:28. Kelsey, if we're ready to get started on Q&A.
Sure.
All right.
Alrighty. So thank you all for sharing your questions. We're going to kick off our Q&A, and just to keep a couple of things to keep in mind, to help streamline things, we may consolidate similar questions. So just keep that in mind if you don't hear your question asked verbatim. And in addition, if questions are really circumstance specific to you and your system's needs, we may need to email you a little bit to get additional context. So we may not be able to answer those until after the webinar. With that in mind, let me see what our first question is. This first question is talking about their experience of the survey. So they said, when I did the survey in August, there was a certain amount of money that was included in penalties. On the 15th of October, it is now a different amount of money without penalties. It is a moving target as time goes on and people are paying by using our payment plans and getting back to work. The question is, can I credit the amount of money that I'm submitting today to the water accounts to stop the moving target? That way, it is not still moving after I submit the data to you, and by the time I get the funds in a few months, I would have to refund most of it back to the state because people are paying in this time. This makes it more simple to credit the amount to my customers today to get them relief faster and send them letters today on the amounts they are getting. This will also eliminate the need to return any funds to the state. I think, Jennifer, you can take that question.
Yeah, I can take that. We do realize that it is a moving target. When you submitted the survey, you had entered the amounts at that time for the arrearages. And that's why in the application, we give you a chance to revise those numbers. So in those questions 2 and 4, as David indicated, you'll have the chance to revise those numbers. And so when we are reviewing and processing your application for payment, we will be paying for those amounts that you're putting in the application, not the amounts that were in the survey. So we're giving you that chance to update the numbers, and do realize that there might be some changes between when you're submitting the application and when you actually get the payment. And that's why, we have that option to return the unused funds to the state. I realize that that is not ideal, and nobody really wants to do that, but it is there. If not all the funds are used. As far as if you can credit the customers now to stop the moving target, I guess I would ask you maybe to put in the chat function or through the email how you would do that before you receive our funds. So that's the piece of the question I need a little more information on for that. So yep.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, so it sounds like if there is some specific peculiarities, you could bring that question to the team, but thank you for answering that in broad strokes. Great. The next question is, can we submit for other funds that we collect for other entities, such as trash? And if so, where would we identify those other funds?
So I can jump in on this one. Again, this is Jennifer. So you cannot submit for trash and other types of utilities through this program. So this arrearage program is for water. And we are anticipating that we will have wastewater funds available. So we will be, implementing a wastewater arrearage program early 2022. So that will be your chance to reclaim those wastewater arrearages and expenses. If you have combined billing, so say you are charging customers for water, wastewater, trash, then you'll need to let us know the percentage of the water to those bills so that we can calculate the amount of water arrearages from that. So we're willing to work with you on that, but those costs for trash cannot be included. We cannot reimburse, so they're not eligible under this program.
Great, thank you. So the next question is about a similar thing about eligibility and accounts. Can we include recycled water accounts now that drinking was struck in the guidelines? If so, where would you like us to include those funds? Jennifer, are you okay to take that one as well?
Yeah, I can take that one. It's related. Those recycled water fees should be claimed under our wastewater program when we implement it early 2022.
Perfect.
Because those are related to the wastewater.
Awesome. Where should we put the customer assistance funds?
Okay, so for the customer assistance program, I saw a few questions in the chat, so I want to clarify what those are. So if your water system has a fund that you can assist your ratepayers with, and you've credited those funds to those customer accounts, those are the customer assistance programs that we are talking about in our presentation and our guidelines. So those are, we have to handle those a little differently. So you would have to, we would give you arrearage funding and you would have to back those funds out of those customers' bills and then replace them with our arrearage funds. So Kelsey, can you remind me of, there was a second question in there. Is it where they go, since you're reading them through the chat?
Yeah, it was just where should we put the customer assistance funds? Yeah.
Okay. So when you're filling out the application, our question 5 will ask you if you have a CAP program. So you would mark it there. And then in the attachments in the Excel spreadsheet, you'd want to break those out separately. So we know what are the CAP funds versus which are the arrearages for the regular arrearages for residential and commercial.
Perfect, thank you. I think this next question might be better pointed to Nzube, so I'll just get you on deck. Do all forms need to be signed by the authorized rep, including the tax ID forms that were previously submitted?
Yes, every form that is submitted should be signed by the designated signatory. Sorry, I said that wrong. Simply, yeah, they do all need to be signed by the authorized rep when they're being sent into the fund.
Great, thank you. Next question is, when is the past due as of date? We've had customers who are past due, but we encourage them to pay their bill and they have since paid. So is it 1 for customers past due as of the date that we submit our application? Or if a customer is past due at any point during the COVID relief period that this funds?
So I guess this is Jennifer again. I will start it out and then let the team fill in anything I might have missed, because there's a lot of kind of details to unpack in that question. I want to make sure I get to all of them. So our eligible arrearages under this program are for those billing dates in the COVID period. So that's the billing dates. What's eligible are those during that billing date that are 60 days or more past due by the time you're submitting the application. So if you have, and then the other question I kind of see buried in here in the question, if you have customers that have already paid that off, that's no longer eligible because it's not an arrearage. So hopefully that answered all the questions that were in there. Team, let me know if I missed anything.
Yeah, this is David. I don't think you missed anything, Jennifer, but I would note that we acknowledge that payments are coming in from customers all the time, and that they'll be coming in after you submit, and that the amount or the total amount of arrearages might actually be reduced in during the time that you're preparing your application. And it's acknowledged. And any funding that we issue to public water systems that is not used will eventually need to be returned to the State Water Board. If in fact you make a request that includes some dollars that are eventually paid by customers, then that would just need to be returned.
Thank you. Thank you both. So the next question is, what is the preferred method to receive Excel files that have the account numbers, arrearage amounts, and zip codes? Is it desired that they be split out, so into residential, commercial, residential sent to county, etc.? And therefore you would receive multiple Excel files, or do they need to all be in one Excel file?
So this is Jennifer. We don't really have a preference. I would say that, if you can have if you have a customer assistance program, funds that you're trying to recoup or debt transfer, it's helpful when we're reviewing those to have those in a different spreadsheet than those that have the typical arrearages for residential and commercial. But we'll work with whatever we get. I've seen all kinds of combinations of Excel files come in through the application process.
Great.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, there's a little follow-up on that question to add a little bit of context. So just in case there's any guidance about this, they noted that it may cause some confusion due to an account number being shown twice if there was a portion sent to the county and other eligible arrears that were not aged enough to be sent to the county. So if there's any additional guidance for when an account number might show up twice, then please let us know.
Okay. That I don't know. I might have to look into further. And Zube, I don't know if you guys have had that happen and if you have any guidance on that.
I believe there is a template in the survey for that, to basically list out like the different types of customers.
Okay.
But yeah, if they send it, like we won't not accept it if they send it in another way, but ideally the preferred way is to use the template in the survey.
Great.
I don't know
you.
if that answers it. I can elaborate more, but
I think that's probably good for now. And if it didn't answer your question, Brian, please do send us an email about the specific dilemma that you're having. And I'm sure that the team will be able to answer based off of those specifics. So the next question is the Housing is Key program classified under the Customer Assistance Program provisions, the CAP provisions? And are you able to answer that in Zumbe?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Go ahead. So the Customer is Key program is another funding source that's available for residents. So that's just another funding source. It's not a customer assistance program that a water system, like I explained before. We're looking for information on those customer assistance programs that water systems have where they might have used their own funds to help out customers during the COVID period. So Housing is Key is another funding source that you might refer your customers or residents to.
Great, thank you. The next question is about eligibility. So it says, if you have customers who accumulated balances prior or after the March 4th, 2020 to June 15th, 2021 timeframe, can any payments be made by the customer? Can any payments made by the customer be applied to these balances instead of the balance we submitted for them through the application process. And let me know if you need me to repeat that question since I stumbled. I'll go ahead and repeat, and then maybe someone will be ready to jump in. If you have customers who accumulated balances prior to the March 4th, 2020 to June 15th, 2021 timeframe, can any payments be made by the customer? I stumbled again. If you have customers who accumulated balances prior to the dates in question, can any payments made by the customer be applied to those balances instead of the balance we submitted for them through the application process?
I don't know that we have any rules within our program that prohibit that. But Jennifer, maybe you want to elaborate?
Yeah, no, I guess I would ask a question back of when a customer pays, how the water system handles that payment. Do they, credit it to the earliest, past due bill date, and how that works? I think we'd probably have to meet offline and chat about it. But
Yes.
our funds can only be utilized for those billing dates during the COVID period. So.
Great, thank you. Hopefully that helped clarify. And if not, again, please feel free to reach out to the email about your specific situation. So the next question is, how should water systems classify funds? Should these funds be classified as grant funds or utility revenue or something else?
I'm assuming that the question is when they receive funds from us, how that would be classified. And if that's incorrect, please type in the chat, but they are grant funds.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is about process. Can we upload our own spreadsheet as long as it includes the information you're requesting in the template?
Yes.
Great, that was a nice, easy answer. The 10% admin fee doesn't cover the costs of administering the notifications that are required by the program. How was the amount determined?
Unfortunately, I think we need to begin by clarifying that it's a 3% admin fee, not to exceed $1 million. Gosh, the rest of it, I almost would request that you repeat it, Kelsey.
That's fine. Yeah, so the question is, how was that admin fee amount, which is actually 3%, how was that amount determined?
That amount is in the legislation, so we did not determine that in our guidelines. That was given to us in the bill language, the 3%. I'm not sure how they came up with the 3% though.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the thought process behind that either, but it appeared in the statute underlying our program. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Let's see. The next question is somebody who says their water system is not showing up under the new Arrearages applications page. How do they fix that?
So the best way would be to email us at the website given in the presentation, and then we can take a look and see what is going on with their water system and why that's not popping up.
Great, thank you. The team will be standing by to troubleshoot.
Yep.
Some of the customer bills that were issued in June were not 60 days past due at the time of the survey, but are now over 60 days past due. Can those now be included in the application?
Yes, they can.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, the applications from the survey to the numbers from the survey to the application don't need to match. We understand that they may in some circumstances go up, they may in some circumstances go down, and a few times I guess they might stay the same.
Awesome. Great. So this next question is it possible to amend the indemnification clause in the conditions of payment to exclude indemnifying negligent and willful conduct?
I can take this one. Unfortunately, no. Amending any clauses in the conditions of payment would require anybody who has submitted to go and re-sign and resubmit that form. Those conditions of payment, the language in there was vetted. So to go back and start amending things right now would create further issues down the line. I hope that answers.
Thank you so much. There's another question about housing is key, which we addressed earlier, but it's a slightly different question. So I want to make sure that we clarify. So this question says, how does housing is key assistance play into this? We have not received any payment from housing is key as of now. However, we have multiple customers who have specified that they have in fact applied for assistance, but we have no idea when or how much we will receive. Nzumbe, is that a question you can jump in with?
I'm not really familiar with the housing assistance program. I know this is specifically for drinking water and arrearages associated with that. I would have to look into how payments from the housing assistance or housing is key program apply to this at all. I don't think that they do. I think that's a separate, completely separate funding program than what this is addressing.
Great, thank you. Anything to add, others on the call?
Hi, Kelsey. This is Salika Potter with DFA. Can you repeat that question for me, please?
Absolutely. The question is, how does housing is key assistance play into this? We have not received any payments from housing is key as of now. However, we have multiple customers who have specified that they have in fact applied for assistance, and we have no idea how much or when we will receive it.
Okay, so the Housing is Key program is handled by a different entity than us. I believe that the Water Board is moving faster in releasing our payments than the other programs that have received funding that may potentially pay for things that we are already paying for. What we are doing is so the water systems understand, we cannot double pay on costs. So if those costs have already been submitted to us, we are going to be paying the water systems out. I believe that you're not going to have to worry too much about the Housing is Key just because we are ahead of that program. So whatever is remaining on your customer accounts that are in arrears, they could potentially apply for Housing is Key for the remainder of the funding if they meet the correct eligibility requirements for that program. But because we are actually running a lot faster than these other programs, I don't foresee us double paying out costs related to the water arrearages for water systems.
Very helpful. Thank you so much for that. Great. The next question is about late fees. The question is, they understand that arrearages payments will not cover late fees. Is that correct? And the second question, is there a requirement that the purveyor not collect late fees associated with this?
So this is Jennifer. The answer to the first question is yes. And the answer to the second question is yes also.
Great,
The
thank you.
participants have to waive late fees.
Great. So it does not cover late fees, and late fees do need to be waived. The next question is, this funding is only for past due. This looks more like a comment than a question. So maybe this is just a clarification. This funding is only the past due water portion of the customer's bill, correct?
Correct.
Great. Where can we find more information on the requirements regarding the admin fee?
So we're developing, as part of the reporting requirements, the template for what will need to be submitted for the admin fees. I'm not sure if you can put in the chat maybe what other information you're looking for guidance.
Great. The next question is, where on the portal do you see the accepted application? We have a confirmation email showing it was submitted, but I do not see anything on the drink portal.
So when you log into the EAR, and maybe we can, in that slide where it shows the number of applications ready to be started, it'll show your number of applications ready to be edited, or it'll show the number of applications that you have submitted. So you should be able to see in that slide. Thank you for whoever is sharing their screen. I believe it's up towards the top. We can show that. Can you scroll up maybe to slide maybe around 9 or 10? 11, thank you. All right, thank you. So here under My Arrearage Survey and Applications, once you submit, you should see you have, on this screenshot, you have 0 arrearages application completed, submitted. That last one, once you submit, you should see it there. And yep, once you submit, again, this is just another reminder, once you submit, you will not be able to edit your application for audit purposes. You would need to, if you need to change anything, you would need to email us, let us know what those changes are, and we would need to have an administrator do the revisions.
Great, thank you. This is another question about eligibility in relation to other programs. If we applied for reimbursement from the state in the special district 100 million pot of funding, are we also able to participate in this program?
This is Jennifer. No, that program states in their guidance material that if you receive funding from our program, you're ineligible to receive the special district funding and vice versa. So when an application is submitted, our Division of Drinking Water team are reviewing the applications and checking to see if that entity is a special district, and we're reaching out either via email or phone just to make sure that those special districts are aware of that you can't receive funding from both of those programs to avoid double funding. So we'll reach out, we're letting everyone know, and waiting for a response back on that just to make sure we are aware of that it's a potential issue. So good question. Thank you.
Yeah, good one. Thank you. So the next question is a clarification about the shutoff moratorium. What about customers who are 60 days past due after June 15th? I think that means for water bills that happened after that deadline. When will we be allowed to shut water off for non-payment for these customers?
So the moratorium is for all community water systems. So yeah, we're going back to the slide that shows it. And so it says, so the moratorium extends to December 31st, 2021. So water systems cannot be shut off until whichever date is later. So either they've defaulted on their payment program or December 31st, 2021.
Great, thank you. The next question is about the payment process. Is there an estimate for when the payments will happen once an entity completes the application?
This is Salika from DFA. At this time, we do not have an estimate as to when checks will go out from the point in which we approve a payment. Because this is a new program and we are establishing it, we are working through the process right now with our accounting office to figure out how long that process will take. Once we receive that information, we plan to put that information up on our webpage to let you guys know that. I know that is a big question everybody has, but at this time we have to get the payments rolling through not only the state water board, but they have to clear through the state controller's office in order to have a check issued. So as I said, we are working through that process and hopefully we will know how long that will take or about how long that will take in the next couple of weeks, and we'll post that information up for you guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The next question relates to slide 8. And on that slide 8, it reads on bullet 4 that systems with debt transferred to county or third party eligible. That sub bullet mentions that they have 3 options. Could you please elaborate on the options? So could you elaborate on the options for systems that transfer debt to the county or another third party?
Yeah, those options are in our guidelines. Let me pull it up real quick so I can read it. Maybe we can answer another question while I'm pulling up those 3 options here.
That sounds great. So the next question is about whether or not there's an update on the 1099 guidelines from the state or the federal government.
So for 1099s, as it stands right now, the State Water Board will be issuing out 1099s to impacted in water systems as per our requirements. Water systems should consult with whoever their tax professional is to figure out whether or not they may have to do the same for the customer accounts that they are applying bill credits for. The language that we have seen thus far, while it may not look and appear from all the offshoots that are available that we have seen that it does, water systems are not affected, we cannot provide guidance on that. So water systems should consult with their tax professionals on that point.
Great, thank you for that.
All right, Kelsey, I'm ready if you are.
Sure thing. Yeah. So as a reminder, this question was about whether we could elaborate on the options for systems that have debt transferred to the county or a third party.
Right. So for this, it's in section F of our guidelines that were adopted September 21st. So it says community water systems that no longer hold the arrearage debt may credit qualifying customer accounts by doing any of the following. 1, directly paying the third party to reduce or eliminate the debt. 2, refunding the credited amount to the customer. Or 3, creating a positive balance for customers to apply towards future water bills. Thanks.
Great, thank you for that. The next question is about multiple utility bills. It says some cities bill for water, sewer, and sanitation in one bill. If we are receiving funding for the water portion of the bill, some customers will still hold a high balance, thus triggering a disconnection of services due to high balances, but we are required to place these customers on a payment arrangement. The payment arrangement is for the water portion of the bill, not for the sewer and solid waste. How can we handle this?
That's a good question that I'll have to look into. I don't know if anybody else on the team.
Jennifer, I would need to research it too. I don't have an answer for that one ready yet.
Great. So if that system applies to you, or if that situation applies to your system, please, do reach out for that follow-up so that the team can get back to you once they figure out that particular circumstance. And I think this relates, but I think some of this we can clarify now. So can we submit for other funds that we collect for other entities, trash, etc.? And if so, where would we identify those other funds?
So the answer to can you claim funds for those other items is no. So this is only for water. So those trash, wastewater funds cannot be included in your application, and we can't provide reimbursement for that.
Great, thank you.
And so if they have a combined bill, then we'll work with them on establishing, a percentage. We need the average percentage for their water bills to apply that so we can calculate the arrearages.
Great, perfect. This is about the admin costs again, but specifically about supporting documentation. What are examples or required supporting documentation for administrative costs? Is there a resource that explains what activities may qualify?
I think there's a brief explanation of the administrative costs and what is included in those within our guidelines. And I would refer to those, but it's not a lengthy explanation or anything. We're essentially talking about costs associated with preparing an application, gathering up information for the application, and then also complying with the upcoming reporting requirements. And Zube, do you have more to add on that?
Not really. It's like you just said, it's in the guidelines.
Correct.
Great, thank you. It sounds like the guidelines are the best resource for questions about administrative costs and what can be considered within that. And if you have a really specific question about something, you could reach out to the team and they can help you clarify that. What the guidelines.
Kelsey, there's actually one thing I should add too is
Sure.
that when we do release a little bit more information about those reporting requirements and we develop the portal for water systems to use for reporting, a template for those is going to be provided. So I think that the template may provide a good answer, maybe the best answer to the question that was posed.
Great, thank you. Okay, so this says that they will incur admin costs after the application due date. Can we provide estimates of application time and actuals within reporting requirements?
Can you repeat that again, Kelsey? Sorry.
That's fine. This is asking whether they can include estimates to the for their admin costs because they will incur the admin costs after the application due date. So they won't know the actuals.
Yes, and so in the application, the application will automatically add in that 3% of your total arrearages. So it's kind of doing the estimate for you. It'll calculate the max amount that you can apply for, and if you wanted to take those full 3%, you would put in the maximum allowable in that next question. There are some water systems that feel that, they might not need the entire admin, so you can always request less on the application than the maximum allowable. But we realize at this point they are estimates, and then in the reporting requirements, we would need to see which costs, what those costs that are being claimed for admin are allocated to.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, and the next question related to that as well. So I think the next question was asking, do we just collect the blanket auto-calculated 3%? And do we have to prove those costs? And it sounds like you can include the blanket auto-calculated percent, and that afterwards you can explain how you wound up using those costs. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then if you don't use all those costs, then you would need to return them to the State Water Board.
Great, thanks for that clarification. This is a question about systems with a customer assistance program. They are eligible and that they are asked to coordinate with the Arrearage team. Is there a specific contact they should reach out to for that particular need, or should they reach out to the general email?
Probably the general email. We've had a few come in through there that we set up calls with to discuss how their customer assistance program works, or we have some that submit the application and in question 5 marked that they have a customer assistance program, and we've set up meetings. So either way works. We just need to discuss with the water system how they might apply our funding to those customer assistance accounts. So.
Great, thanks. And again, that general email is Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov, and that's a great starting point. And from there, questions can be directed to the appropriate party. The next question, there's actually a couple of questions about sample materials. So the first question is, will the Water Board provide a sample of the payment arrangement plan? And similarly, will the Water Board provide a sample of a notice to customers that will receive a credit to their account? Systems are required to provide that notice. Is there going to be a sample resource on what that notice might look like?
So with the notice to the customers, we are not providing a template for that because we realize that there's no kind of one size fits all for that. Some of the water systems are going to be applying, the credit once to their customer accounts. Some need to apply it over, 2 different tax years. So that's going to look different. So that it is and should be developed by the water system. The template, the first question, what are they asking? Guidance, a template for, can you repeat that first one?
Of course, the payment arrangement plan.
Does anybody on my team have any insight on what the payment arrangement, their payment plans? Is that what they're asking?
I think they mean their payment plans, Jennifer.
Their payment plan. Okay. So no, we don't have a template for payment plans. If you need help setting up a payment plan, that would be a good thing to request technical assistance for.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question is, and I'm not entirely sure I understand the question, so I'll read it so that the person might be able to explain in the chat, and we can get back to it, or maybe the team will understand. It's asking where the Arrearages spreadsheet is located at. I suspect that might be referring to the template that was discussed earlier, but does anyone have any insight into that question?
Yeah, it is the template, and it's within the survey.
Perfect. Great, thank you. So the next question is, let me see. This is again about transfer debt to county tax rolls. It says transfer debt to county tax rolls can be included if the accounts are active. Is that even if we do not hold the debt on their account?
Yes.
Great.
So just to clarify, because we've seen a couple applications come in, when we ask if you have debt transfer in the application, we mean in the instance that your water system no longer holds the debt. So if you're still holding the debt, but you've brought in a collection agency, then you would mark none of the above. You would only mark that you have debt transfer if you no longer hold that debt.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The next question relates to other programs that are going on and the situation for combined utilities. So it says for combined utilities that have water and gas, will the water board be coordinating with CSD and the CAP program, or will checks be issued separately?
Yes, we're coordinating with CSD, very much so. One of the purposes of that coordination, although not the only one, is to make sure that we aren't both covering the same costs. But perhaps Jennifer or Salika or Nzube would want to add on to my answer.
So I would say, yes, we are coordinating with the entities, like David said, to ensure that we are not double paying costs. No, we will not be issuing out joint payments, joint checks, anything of that kind. Because the State Water Board's program is moving faster, chances are you will see a payment coming from the State Water Board before you would receive funding from CSD. So just so you know, payments will not be coordinated to that level. We are talking to let them know which payments we have released when, but joint payments will not be coming.
Great, thank you for those clarifications. This question is about the wet signature requirement. It says when we completed the original application on October 7th, the instructions only requested that the wet signature for the disbursement request be mailed and did not ask for a condition of payment. When we did mail the disbursement, request. Can we now mail the condition of payment?
Yes. Simply put, just, yeah.
Great, perfect, thank you. Can an agency decide to cap the credit at $600 in the event that we do not have the Social Security numbers or the mean to collect Social Security numbers needed for the 1099?
Can you say that one again for us, Kelsey?
Absolutely. Can an agency decide to cap the credit at $600 in the event that we do not have the Social Security numbers or the means to collect the Social Security numbers needed for the 1099?
It is going to be up to the agency's discretion. So however the water agency is crediting that amount back to accounts, that is up to them. We can't provide any type of tax advice here, besides me just telling water systems that though if you are in the reportable classification, the water board will issue out a 1099 G where needed. And then it's up to the water systems to discuss with their tax professionals as to how they're going to administer it from there, and how they apply it to their own taxes and everything else. But if they want to only apply for less than $600 for their accounts, they can and apply it that way.
Great, thank you. The next question is about the requirements around inactive accounts. It says, why are inactive accounts not included in the reimbursement? We were not allowed to discontinue water service. They have moved out of the location and the balance is still there, even though the account is closed. Why are agencies not being reimbursed for these two?
So clarification, if you have just arrearages for residential and commercial that occurred during the COVID period, we can provide funding for inactive accounts for those. Where we can't provide funding for inactive accounts is when the debt has been transferred to a third party.
Helpful clarification, thank you. And this question may relate, I'm not quite sure. It says we applied for lost revenues, but I don't see that addressed in the application. Are we still eligible for those funds?
Unfortunately, the short answer is no. The legislation language only allows us to utilize the arrearage funds by crediting customer accounts. So the only exception to that is the 3% admin. So there's no way to recoup the loss of revenue if they are beyond arrearages.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is a process question. Is there a way to verify that the signature pages have been received by the state?
We will be sending out emails if we have gotten your application via ear and not received your wet signature. There's a little bit of a mail lag. So I would say if you don't get an email, chances are we do have your application, and probably within 3 to 5 business days. If you don't get an email, the chances are we do have your application. If you do, we would just ask you to resubmit it to us.
Great, thank you. There's another question about the 1099s that's building on an earlier question, a follow-up. If we are required to issue 1099s, can the Water Board provide sample language for notifying our customers of the tax liability?
Short answer, no. The Water Board will not be providing any templated language as such. Water systems will need to discuss with their tax professionals again on this and formulate what they need to say out to their customers.
Great, thank you. This question is asking, they said we would do an adjustment now and match it with a check when it is received. Is there any chance that we won't receive the funds? And I'm not sure if that question is clear to the panel. If not, we'll maybe ask for clarification.
I would need clarification on that one, Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think that was from Jean. If you want to drop a clarification question in to the chat, we can come back to that question.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, if that's in response to having concerns about unused funds and having to return them to us at the end, the other option might be to request less than the calculated, maximum funding.
Great, thank you. And I think we've already clarified this, so we'll do a rapid round. But the survey requested total arrearages for both active and inactive accounts. Please clarify that inactive accounts will be funded. Let me just repeat that clarification because it's a little nuanced.
Those inactive accounts are eligible as long as those accounts have not been transferred to a third party. So if you still have the debt on your books for those inactive accounts, then yes, those are eligible.
Great, thank you. If there are excess funds after the water and wastewater arrearages are paid off through June 15th, is there any indication that the remaining funds could help arrearages subsequent to June 15th to the end of the moratorium, which is December 31st?
At this time, I would say no, unless additional legislation or something is passed regarding it. But at this time, we are subject to what the statute says. And if there is any remaining funding as of now, we will be working with Department of Finance to push it back into the big overall federal funding that all the agencies have received.
Great, thank you. There's a question about the likelihood of not getting the funds when you apply. Is there a chance that we won't get the funds?
So if you are a qualifying community water system, applied through the portal, provided all of your information, by deadline, we will be pushing out those eligible payments. So we're not running a risk of not paying anybody right now if they have applied it timely.
Perfect, thank you. The next question, there were a couple of questions that came in clarifying whether irrigation water is eligible.
No, irrigation water is not eligible.
Great, thank you. The next question is a clarification. If a customer pays between the application and the release of funds, do we return those funds or do we credit their account for that amount?
If a
In
customer,
that scenario, the funds would be returned, but go ahead and Zube, sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, we both unmuted at the same time. Yeah, the customer would have to return sorry, not the customer, the water system would have to return the funds if the customer is no longer in arrearages.
Great, thank you. The next question asks, if we have a low-income customer assistance program, we need to somehow split out those funds from arrearages for each account. So we will report a smaller arrearage than what is actually there. So I think that was a follow-up on a previous question. And I'm not sure if this might be too circumstance specific and we might need to get back.
I will request that they shoot an email to the general email account on this one and let us respond directly to you.
That sounds good. Thank you. The next question wants to know, I think this is about if their allocation has changed from when they submitted the survey. It says, can we submit an abbreviated survey to increase our allocation?
So if you open up the EAR and you're eligible to fill out the application and you want to change your numbers, you don't have to go through the abbreviated survey. You can just log in, fill out the application, and those amounts can be increased in the application from what you previously reported in the survey. So you don't have to go through and do an abbreviated survey to do that.
Great, thank you.
And I think that, Kelsey, real quick, I may have caused some confusion, apologies about the irrigation. So I wanted to follow up on that. So when we say that agriculture and irrigation are ineligible, we are talking about those type of accounts that are in arrears. So I would recommend looking at our guidelines for the eligible account types and ineligible account types. It has nothing to do with where you get your water from. We're talking about those types of customers that you are billing for eligible arrearages.
Very helpful clarification. Thank you for that. The next question is just a clarification. Are we allowed to submit an application separately, one for commercial accounts in arrears and the other for residential accounts in arrears? There's two separate departments from the city that are applying. So wondering if they can do that separately.
I believe we can only issue one check per entity. So if two separate departments are applying, that looks like it'd be two separate checks. Slika, you can jump in if I'm missing anything, but we would have them combine them on the same application.
Yes, so if it is the same entity, the easiest way would be to submit one application and we'll issue out one payment. As Nzube said, we can only issue out one payment to an entity. So I would say it needs to be one application, but I will ask the clarifying question. Are you reporting for multiple water systems? Is that why you're trying to split it out? Or is it just two separate areas within your same department is just responsible for things? So whoever asked that question may need to talk to us offline, send an email to the general email account about that one.
Great, thank you. We are running out of time. I'm going to ask just a couple of more questions. And if we don't get to everybody's questions, we, again, are available via email, and we'll try to get back to folks as quickly as we possible. A lot of the remaining questions are a bit specific and might require some conversation anyway, but we'll squeeze in just a couple of more. There's a question about if customers need to opt in, or can we just go ahead and apply the credit to their account?
They don't need to opt in. You can just apply the credit to their account.
Great, thank you. And I think many of these other questions have been answered. And so in the interest of time, I do apologize if we didn't get to your specific question. There were many questions that were quite similar, and so they might have related. Again, this webinar is recorded, and so we'll be able to send that out with folks. If you didn't receive the slides at the beginning, then we would be happy to send those to you via email if you didn't get those already. And so feel free to send us an email to Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca@.gov. So we'll close out now. David, if you could put the last couple of slides back up on the screen so that folks can see the resources that are available to them as we close. And again, thank you all so much for your really, really smart and helpful questions. There were a lot of them, and so
Recording
it sounds
stopped.
like being able to reach out with your specific questions is going to be really useful. And so as a reminder, you can do that in a couple of different ways. If you have a specific question about your circumstance, your survey, please do email us at Community Water Systems COVID Relief at waterboards.ca.gov, and the team will be happy to investigate and let you know the answer to your question. In addition, if you need technical support with the entire application, there are instructions that David's bringing up on the screen here about how you can request that technical support as well. And so hopefully that will make things easier for those that are feeling a little bit stuck. And finally, as we shared earlier, we really encourage you to complete and submit your applications as soon as possible. They're being reviewed as they come in, and funds will start going out in November. The final deadline, of course, is December 6, 2021 at 5 p.m. So I just wanted to say thank you all so much again for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and your participation and your good questions. Let us know if you have more questions via email or via the phone number that's on the screen, 916-322-6227. Thank you all so much, and please have a great day.